And just having that kind of instant boost of health on tap. When you've got light versus light, that's always going to matter. Even if it protects you from one extra rail that otherwise would kill you. These things matter a great deal. And actually, speaking of which, CNZ eats a little bit of rocket damage. Make that 2. Pops the injection. Doesn't go down. But, I mean, this is a far cry from that first series of the day where everyone's got all kinds of stack. They just breathed on each other. And they were both almost dead.
I love how you jinxed it by talking about receiving a little bit of rocket damage and it just takes it direct to the face. But CNZ still ends up coming out on top, getting the first frag, turning it into a second one as well. nosfa, bit unfortunate on the spawn right there.
Happens to everyone, right? You spawn near LG, you just want to pick one up, enemies there, you've got no weapon to challenge, and you kind of have to just accept your fate as nosfa did. Well, I do worry. Those kind of plays where you spawn, grab a weapon and run in. I mean, like, I know he had the armor timing in his mind and he knew that, look, if I can at least take this armor, I'll be able to turn things around. But how many times have we seen, Flea, these aggressive plays right now where it's almost, I've got loads of time, so it doesn't matter. Now it's a minute in and it's 5-0. I think that matters quite significantly.
On a similar note.
No!
How many times have you seen people hit 58% LG on a slash? Because that's what CNZ has been up to so far. Aim out of control, the tracking sublime. But nosfa is finding his way back into it. He secured himself the heavy. Which means that the Brazilian now has the better stack, or at least did before that rocket. nosfa doesn't have a rail. Kind of dipping and dodging, trying to escape with as little damage as possible. Managed to pull it off quite nicely because CNZ just couldn't quite land the shots he needed. Will still get the frag in the end and secure heavy as well. I feel like nosfa has been a little callous with some of these pushes, a little too aggressive, not really respecting CNZ enough. You saw it earlier with the Mega as well, when he thought that CNZ was leaving the room, but CNZ just kind of held this ground and then LG nosfa trying to jump across.
Oh, my lord. One single hit from nail gun into rail, and that was a flat. God, what was that? 110 damage or so? Above anything, I mean, if we're going to give a silver lining to this situation, surely it's got to be that nosfa knows what kind of opponent he's up against. He knows how much damage he's going to take. If I'm playing a Slash, who is one of the hardest to hit champions, period, and he's able to hit me with this much LG, I mean, look at that stack just disappear. It's 10-0, and we're not even 3 minutes in, Flea. nosfa, he's got to slow things down. Yeah, it's weird saying that to a Slash player, but he's spawning, he's grabbing a gun, he's going in. Yes, he's pushing for items. I can see the idea behind it, but 10 times, man, that hasn't worked. And I don't feel like he's going to be able to get back into this map. How do you recover? 7 minutes to go, you're already 10-0 down. I mean, I don't see it.
And that's what I was getting at when I talked about the respect part. nosfa really just throwing himself at his opponents, making these pushes, like heading for the heavy earlier. Yeah, he denied it, but at what cost, right? That one draft quickly turned into another. And now CNZ has a 9-point lead, barely 3 minutes into the game. nosfa, of course, still has plenty of time to recover. Can easily, or rather, it is theoretically within the realm of possibility. Has the time to work with, plus his opponent has little stack as they're both light, so it's gonna be a huge brawl, can quickly stack together frags, but Anarchy, it's difficult to catch even when you're playing Slash.
It was a bit of an unfortunate life there from CNZ because right as he spawned near Rocket Side, he did miss the bridge jump, so he wasn't able to take the rail, and it knocked him down into the catacombs. So from that point, he was forced to play extremely slow and careful. Eventually caught himself near teleporter and didn't have much, I don't think by choice he would have wanted to go there if he had the high ground and a rail, because that's ultimately what's kept him so dominant on this map so far. And now nosfa is turning things around, and straight off spawn, CNZ has just not been able to get all of the equipment that he's looking for. Now, he spawned near bridge again. This time, he does land the bridge jump, so he gets himself a rail. The rail and the LG combined have just been so paramount for causing nosfa so much bother.
I like how CNZ has been using the injection earlier, I don't think it showed because we were on nosfa's point of view, but when CNZ was setting up for heavy underneath the bridge, he just popped it a second before nosfa came through the room, so he was really prepared for that, giving himself that extra little bit of health just to hold on to the item. I like it. He isn't just popping the injection to recover health or to get out of bad situations, but he's actively using it to buff himself up prior to key fights.
This is an extremely aggressive nosfa, but it does make sense. We're halfway through, right, and nosfa went into 3 minutes of this map being 10 frags down. The second you get any kind of advantage, you have to push it. You know, I just don't think time's going to be on your side. With this much down, all it takes is an opponent to start playing hyper defensive, and even one frag taking 10 seconds longer than it should will decide whether you actually make a comeback or not. There's just so much work to do. So I don't think nosfa's left with much of a choice. Unfortunately, everything needs to kind of work perfectly from this point on. Even conceding one extra frag while trying to mount this comeback now is probably going to make it rather impossible.
I feel like nosfa was already overextending a bit when the scoreline wasn't this bad, but now he really doesn't have that much of a choice, right? You saw it earlier when he pushed towards Nailgun. CNZ landing that 100 damage direct rocket onto nosfa, completely changing the pace and momentum of the game and knocking control away from him. That was not a push that he needed to take, but now, yeah, when you're 8 frags behind, you kind of have to start going for those fights, even though they're not in your favor at all. And CNZ is just looking to take advantage of that, right? That is why he is one of the most disciplined players in the league.
Oh, he doesn't manage to get the heavy, though. The plan was to just take it away. I mean, let's look at that. Let's say CNZ just died there, but he stole the heavy. He would have spawned near Mega, and then just like that, the difference would have been huge between the two of them. CNZ has been playing patiently. Even small details. He's up near... He got the hover tank award, by the way. Nice amount of self-stack he's given himself. Finished it off with the machine gun. Thank you very much. I was talking about the safe play here from CNZ, where one element you're going to have, Slash. Oh my lord, is she noisy. All you got to do is listen out, and you can just hear those rollerblades all over 2 rockets. 1 frag. And this is kind of what I was saying, Free. All it takes is 1 frag, really, on top of what nosfa's already having to work with, and I mean, that's it. I don't see him being able to make this comeback here. There's too much work to do, and not enough time to make it happen. And what do we think this came down to, Flea?
Lack of respect from nosfa, I think, played a big part in it. Especially towards the beginning of the map. I feel like there were just a few cases where nosfa really didn't have business showing his face somewhere. Played kind of predictably as well, right? I think we saw 3 frags or so where CNZ would get the kill, you know, more over towards the shotgun side of the map. So nosfa spawns beneath Mega, and every single time nosfa just rushes into the LG room, which is right on CNZ's path. And he paid for it with his life every single time. So plays like that, that's what led to the scoreline getting so out of control.
It almost seems like there was an element of autopilot here from nosfa. Like, perhaps he has played a lot of Slash on this map in preparation. We know that nosfa does like those high-octane champions. We've seen him on this very map, actually, do magical things. Oh, whoa! Mid-air. But at the end of the day, like, perhaps there's just a certain few things that nosfa does, like fresh off the spawn early, and he wasn't really too worried about it, so he's kind of just going through the motions, right? He's going through the stuff that he's always been doing, and against someone like CNZ, it just doesn't cut it. It almost sounds like perhaps I'm reaching a bit too deep, but it just seemed like nosfa was just playing a bit on autopilot here, and it cost him.
Also can't forget that CNZ played this beautifully as well, right? The aim that nosfa has had to go up against, CNZ is hitting 48% LG, 47, make that 50% rail against one of the smallest and fastest champions in the entire game. That's pretty remarkable, and nosfa was just unable to push through that, especially, you know, sometimes that disrespectful playstyle, it works out well, and nosfa is a player who can definitely deliver on it too, but when CNZ was hitting as much as he was, it's just not going to amount to anything.
The defensive plays from nosfa just in case. You know, we're kind of sitting here chatting about the matchup, but this is a done deal. This first map is going to go in favor of CNZ, but truly, when I look at the maps in play in this rotation, I kind of would have favored CNZ to win this anyway. It's just a map that plays to so many of his strengths. Very positional, extremely patient. Not really much of a risk taker, unless it's something that there was almost no risk attached at all. But it's a level of discipline that CNZ has always had, and that, for me, has been the magic word since CNZ made his namestay placement here in Pro League, is that he is the most disciplined player that we have. So you look at a map like Blood Covenant, which can be defensive, it can be super rail heavy, strong about positions and everything else, and I mean, I think it caters to all of CNZ's strengths, and we saw that rather perfectly. Even at the items, actually. nosfa had more items than CNZ. Barely, but he still had more, and the difference was 19-5. I mean, that's CNZ written all over.
Absolutely. Now map 2 is going to be something else altogether. We'll be moving into Deep Embrace next, much smaller, much more fast-paced than Blood Covenant. Neither player really picking a champion that is lightning fast. nosfa, just to remind everyone, will be running the Ranger, whereas CNZ will be playing Doomslayer. So both players have got mobility options in a different way. CNZ has got that double jump, helps him vertically quite a lot. You can easily get onto the heavy, for example. Quite a few large gaps that you can get across as well, from LG straight into the middle. Whereas on the other hand, the Ranger is a pretty powerful pick as well. So many nice angles to just chuck an orb to the other side of the map, steal away a heavy, for example, and also that passive that protects you from your own rocket damage is quite useful on tinier maps like this one.
We can't ignore the fact, though, that this is not something you see every day in the Pro League of Quake. We're 3 minutes in and the scoreline was 10-0. Least of all from a player like CNZ, I'd like to point out. You know, this guy was always known for being hyper defensive and kind of having those almost low scoring maps. This was not one of those cases, but it's going to be the battle of poster boys. And I almost love how we've come full circle now, because let's look at the situation that we're in. Doomslayer made it into Quake Champions. The gang was all back together. But then, in a shocking turn of events, if you load up Doom Eternal now, there's a Quake Ranger skin in Doom Eternal, and it's like, what's going on? What is this blend? What is this? I'm here for it. I love it.
Also worth noting, this is actually CNZ's first showing in this season of the Quake Pro League. His very first match is taking place today. He didn't get to play last week. He had a bye week, so he's coming out swinging. This is a very confident start to the season, I feel like, really showing what he's capable of. We've seen him get better and better, right? Never really getting the best results when it matters the most, but he's always a bit of a dark horse, and he's consistently floating around the middle of the pack, getting decent placements, but nothing spectacular. And I think that CNZ wants to change that up this season, and this is a good way to go about it.
There's always motivation in regards to that, isn't there? How many times do we see players say, I'm happy to be in Pro League, but I'm not comfortable anymore being just kind of a player that goes on by and maybe wouldn't have to worry about relegations and the seasons where we had all of that stuff and that. Now, I want to be known as one of the best. There always comes that point where a player just puts that next little extra bit, whether it's their preparation, the research they do, the execution, who knows? It's where players start to make even more of a name for themselves. And let's talk about this matchup. CNZ on the side of Doomslayer, nosfa with the Ranger. You know, Ranger having that extra burst of damage with someone like nosfa, who is so tactically aggressive. That orb is super, super scary. But at the same time, CNZ, it is double jump and double jump alone that will make Doomslayer popular on this map. And the double jump making execution so much easier. You just don't have to think about it. You can put all of your thought and effort into everything except movement, because you ain't got to worry about that movement. Double jump will take care of itself.
Oh, surprising push right there. CNZ caught looking the wrong way. And that will help nosfa get another frag on the board. Instant refrag coming out, so good play from CNZ. And that is exactly like you were saying, Ketchup, why Doomslayer is so powerful. CNZ would not have gotten that frag with another champion. He picked up the LG and just double jumped across, was right on top of his opponent. And that is one of the reasons why Doom is such a powerful pick on Deep Embrace.
He may not like the LG on the receiving end, but he can put it to good use, that's for sure. As we've just started this map off, and even split really in the items, and I like the kind of push that's taking place here. And actually seems elements of respect coming out from nosfa. nosfa knows that CNZ's there, and I just don't think he wants to mess with it, right? Let him take the heavy, I'm going to back off and take Mega. CNZ, I think, is happy that he's not going to have to worry about it. And the split is still non-existent. But nosfa, I feel, already showing more respect to CNZ than he was in that first map.
I think the champion pick also has something to do with it. nosfa knows that if he drops a frag against CNZ, the double jump can so easily close the gap instantly. And if he dies, same thing applies. CNZ can once again just catch him clean off the spawn once more. So he just has to be more calculated, more cautious, and give his opponent the respect he deserves.
Nice little choice there from Tribolt and CNZ. Kind of had a strong feeling his opponent was going to get that defensive rail on deck, and Tribolt versus rail can always be better than you might expect. What? Oh!
The moment Ketchup we start talking about having more respect, nosfa tries to brute force his way through that tiny little murder hole where you can't dodge left or right at all. And that is what gave CNZ the edge in that lightning gun fight and gave him the frag.
You can dodge with your face. That's what Ranger do. It's what he do for a long time. Oh, CNZ almost had that rail shot available. And now we go into a slightly slower matchup here. Information's going to be key. There's the drop down. They trade rail for rail. Pushing through the hole again. A rather bold play, especially nosfa. I think trying to force him away, but he didn't even have the dire orb, so that was even riskier. But is it going to pay off? Steals the Mega. CNZ happy to let him do that because now he's got perfect timing. He knows he's going to be able to take heavy, but actually chooses to push forward. I do respect that decision because, I mean, if he got even one rail there on nosfa, he'd have got the frag and the item. He knows there's no way nosfa can challenge that. And at the same time, put a delay between the two, but he's not getting any damage on deck here while taking a fair amount.
Loving the confidence with the LG, just holding down the firing button for a full second, daring him to show his face. CNZ wisely stuck back, but will nevertheless be nosfa, getting himself another frag. Nice, two rails to the face, and now he's in a perfect position to pick up heavy. Start building some momentum. 10 seconds between the items. If nosfa can get away with Mega cleanly now too, it's going to start being a little bit risky for CNZ, and he will have to slow it down.
Just goes to show, every decision you make in Quake, there's so many moving parts to it. CNZ knew that it hit nosfa. nosfa was weak. nosfa had taken the Mega. There was no armor on deck. He knows I'm comfortable here, and nosfa is not going to push in for this heavy. Wait a minute, if I know he's not going to be at heavy, he's probably going to be near armor, trying to pick up a little bit of extra stack. I'm going to push forward and either get damage or maybe even a bonus frag. The idea was there, but he just couldn't hit any shots whatsoever, and by the time he was even at the heavy, there just was no difference. You know, there's no difference in return, and I think that was a problem. Just goes to show how even decision, everything has to be perfect for it to work out. Punishing.
Yeah. nosfa feels like he's getting his bearing back. Before this last fight, he was at 18% LG, which is definitely not where you want to be at this level of play. So hopefully he can right that sooner rather than later. Grabs the LG, gonna put it to good use. He will.
The fake out!
Yeah, looking a lot more confident and comfortable there as well. Mega should be going his way as well. This is looking pretty good for nosfa now.
But at the same time, audio is key, and nosfa knows that CNZ fresh off spawn has just picked up an armor. At the same time, we'll know he's likely to have picked up heavy as well, so he's going to have to play a strong game here. Hit and run. Can't overextend his stay because you do not want to concede a frag right now. If you do it now, CNZ's probably going to take that Mega off you. Big damage, but oh dear. Flying straight into him. Don't think that was part of the plan, and now unfortunately we'll have to give up Mega. He's nowhere near it.
nosfa was not expecting the bounce to go that way. He had already switched to a different weapon, and then all of a sudden CNZ just got propelled face first into him. Could have ended differently, but oh my goodness, that was something. That was sweet, indeed. Beautifully lined up and executed as well. And now nosfa double the points that CNZ has. There we go, another rail. I'm liking what I'm seeing. nosfa's building confidence. This is so much better than map 1.
The items even split. Uh-oh. Oh, he keeps the rails out. He knows that's going to be his ticket to large damage, but doesn't need a rail to finish. Unfortunately for nosfa, can't get that kind of last-ditch effort. And is now spawning near Rail's side. That's all he's going to have, so nosfa can't overstay his welcome here. Not even able to pick anything up. The fake out on the orb again. That's not the first time CND has kind of expected him to teleport onto it. The almost 50-50 element that Ranger brings to the table. I'd never get tired of seeing it. But let's talk about this current situation. nosfa, all the weapons that you can want, misses the opening rail. And CNZ, I like that. Swapping over to the LG just to punish the cooldown and just get that constant string of damage. It's an awkward fight to try and take someone when they've got an LG there.
Both of the items. Oh,
wow.
Yeah, CNC still finds the shot. Oh, I like how nosfa played this. Oh, he probably could have gotten away with not moving at all. CNZ jumped over but looked the other way. I don't think he had any clue that nosfa was actually there. And now one frag separates these two players. Good thing for nosfa is that the major items are almost aligned, meaning that CNZ cannot get an easy full rotation for himself. He needs to sacrifice one to pick up the other, and if he wants to get both, he will have to delay them, and that will require a frag, I feel like. So nosfa can still kind of keep them separated. Doesn't feel the need to do so just yet though, blazing in.
Now here's what I was just about to point out. If CNZ was the one playing Ranger, then you would in theory be able to pick them both up, and that perfect use of the orb allowed nosfa to close in the distance. Running out of LG ammo almost cost him his life there, but it didn't. That was a beautiful play to just catch CNZ fresh off the item, and there is enough of a delay between the two of them that if nosfa gets another one of those orbs, then maybe he can take them both. I mean, it's almost a 1% chance at this point, but that is what nosfa needed to keep himself back into the fight. The confident play, the perfect execution. And now what's it going to be? The opening rail does miss. nosfa railable, 83 HP. Has to listen out, and that was a safe orb.
Very patiently played as well. He was waiting until he heard CNZ down below with him before he orbed up.
Smart stuff.
All he has to do now is wait. Hold on to this lead for one more minute, but it is a precarious lead and CNZ's aim is on point. One rail that will already clean up that starting armor that nosfa had, and he's in such a bad spot. He doesn't have the orb. CNZ knows that all he's got to work with is the rail, and that will not deter him from pushing in and tying it up 10 to 10.
Honestly, in that situation, when your opponent only has a rail and you've got an LG and you've got stack to take it, you're just licking your lips. You're like, bring it on, I don't care. Yeah. I'll take the hit. You're still gonna die, my friend. And unfortunately for nosfa, no! CNZ is starting to trickle it away piece by piece, and now nosfa is running out of time. He's consistently getting a spawn that I don't think he'd particularly want. I mean, who wants a rail in that situation? They've got an LG, they're pushing in. It's all you've got. What do? You hit a rail, who cares? You're dead anyway. And the last minute GGs will roll out as CND snatches it away at the last possible second. And that is a strong showing for his first appearance here in Season 3. And we're not finished. You know, we still have a map to get through. They were almost completely dead even on damage. 4,660 for CND, 4,603 for nosfa. I mean, that's as even as it gets.
Items were pretty much split down the middle as well, right? 6-12 for nosfa versus 12-5 for CNZ. So just about even when it comes to item pickups as well. But indeed, CNZ played it perhaps a bit more disciplined once again, right? There was a time I felt where nosfa was being really calculated with his aggression, but towards the end, it kind of seemed like he was starting to slip up again a bit too much. Pushing in, hoping to get a little bit of tribal damage, showing his face on heavy, I think a bit too early when he had no business being there. And that's the push that I was talking about earlier, right? Trying to force his way through that little hole, that is just recipe for disaster. And then at one point, nosfa, I think, was 4 frags in the lead before bleeding it back to a tied game. There were some really good plays by the Brazilian though, but I think in the end, CNZ was just a bit too controlled, and nosfa gave up perhaps a few too many angles here and there, pushing a little too aggressively.
There were some moments of greatness that kept nosfa in the fight. I think a real standout moment was that phenomenal Dire Orb. where he was able to pick up the heavy and then put himself on Mega. You know, he almost didn't quite get it because he used all of his ammo on LG, but this just says, I think, leaps and bounds of CNZ's perfect style of play. Those final frags all came down to just knowing where he was going to spawn, having a perfect understanding of his opponent's stack, his opponent's severe lack of weaponry, and even when CNZ's about to make the comeback and nosfa's stuck in that little corner with Rail, like, he knows he's only got Rail, he doesn't want to be there, but how do you get out? It was just commanded so militantly by CNZ that I don't even think any player in the world could have survived that. That's almost checkmate, that was.
Indeed it was. Now, final map, Awoken. nosfa will be running the BJ Blazkowicz, whereas CNZ has picked Galena. Interesting matchup, right? We talked about it briefly before the series started. Typically, players go for movement-focused champions on Awoken. Not this time. Both are just really focused on the one hand, having that utility of the totems, the heals available, which you can hide in quite a few places around the map, particularly around the railgun area. And then on the other hand, nosfa is just going for the raw damage with the dual wield. Now, little worried about that because nosfa's aim definitely hasn't been bad, but there hasn't been anything either that really screams, yes, he's on point today. You know, his rockets were serviceable. His LG, I mentioned it earlier, starting only with around 18% LG. And that wasn't just after one fight, that was after several minutes of using the weapon. He was still below 20%. So I hope that nosfa can really find his swing, get that aim on point, because otherwise he's going to be struggling if CNZ gets some of those totems down.
If you're having an off day in terms of accuracy and you're picking BJ, you're not going to be able to maximize the one thing he's able to do, which is pull out 2 guns. And if you're still missing with those guns, who cares? He'll know that better than anyone, though. I know we always see the America side of things. BJ is always much more popular there, so I always love seeing it. But what interests me the most about these champions is it's a map that they're not as common in. Galena, arguably, because we have seen people play Galena in a strong defensive style in this map, but BJ definitely not. So you know, maybe there's something here that we haven't seen in some time, perhaps. But CNZ is going to be the comfortable one. The win is secured. Now the question is by how much? Is it a clean sweep or is it a 2-1? For nosfa's sake, he's going to want to get this map. But CNZ, I'm sure, would be happy to start things off with a 3-0.
Looks like we're starting it off on CNZ's point of view. He's getting the heavy spawn. Neither player interested in delaying the item pickup. Rockets are good, and oh no, nosfa. See, that's again, catch up what we've been talking about this entire series, right? That push, you know that rockets will beat you out at that range, and nosfa, I'm just hoping that the LG, at least that opening surprise burst coming out the teleporter, would be enough to help, but it wasn't. And just like that, he drops 1 frag to start things off with. Good rail, good rail. It's going to be largely negated by the mega pickup, but that second one is definitely going to hurt, and CNZ once again in the driver's seat. I also like how he's using the totems. Absolutely no thought about hiding them. He's just stacking them at the teleporter exit. If nosfa goes through now, he's got a very, very uncomfortable surprise waiting for him.
And nosfa, he has used a little bit of that BJ style, you know, where he was railable by about 80 or so. Oh, God! There goes the dual wield. No dual wheel has worked out yet. Unfortunately, the first dual wheel popped actually was up near the armor in the center of the map, and he pops it when he can hear CNZ, and he's pushing in. This is kind of shades of Blood Covenant, but with way less of that utility, and dare I say, understanding of why it's even happening. I am quite worried for him with how things are currently going, and CNZ still playing this absolute top-tier style. I mean, he's on form. He's on perfect form. Misses the rail. Of course I cursed him.
Okay, almost looked like it was going to be a direct, but CNZ dodges it nicely. I like how we've just been talking about, oh yeah, CNZ is such a defensive player, and this map starts and absolutely just runs away with the lead, although a lot of that does come from nosfa allowing him to do so. 10 seconds between the items. Not bad for CNZ. Doesn't have any totems up though. Nice, good damage. Both players screamingly weak.
Woo! Aggressive push from nosfa. That's definitely something BJ Blazkowicz would actually do, I think. At death's door, you know what? I hit the shotgun. I'm alive. And actually, The problem with being so weak... Oh, my lord! You want to take this heavy? Think again. Knock you up and finish you off.
Time to die.
Oh, look at this. CNC is setting a trap. Rocket Jump is going to save nosfa, though. The insides, that is phenomenal. nosfa probably had an inkling that CNZ was hiding around there. No, very well that going up the bounce pad could be a death sentence against an LG as powerful as CNZ's, and so instead he just rocket jumps straight onto it.
Look,
Perfect.
Flea, plan all you want. Man has 2 guns.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. With nosfa's aim, I feel like starting to, you know, get into the swing of things. Nothing phenomenal just yet. We know that he can do better, but this is starting to look solid. The CNZ has been solid from start to finish, and it is showing in the scoreline once more.
Even that dual wield, even with the access to the damage nosfa will get from it, CNZ had way too much stack. I don't even, if he hit 100%, I don't even think CNZ would have died in that exchange. He had just so much more. Now the aggressive push, whether he wanted to go in there in the last minute or not, doesn't matter because he gets knocked into it. The totem, I mean, that was a scrambly fight, and it will be nosfa barely surviving, but now... Oh, you can tell nosfa probably would have preferred a trade there because now CNZ's weak, but he's on the rail side. Even before he goes down, he could have in theory got a rail, but nosfa quite rightly doing the push, you know, keep him away, keep him down. He's in mega side now too. Even when CNZ's been dying, it's been favoring him because he's been getting really good spawns.
I feel like nosfa just hasn't been able to make much of the rail. And that has been a key part of why Cyril CNZ is now in the lead. Just for reference, nosfa has done more damage with the Tri-Bolt than he has done with the Railgun. You can't afford to do that on a map like Awoken. 27% Railgun accuracy, 3 shots landed out of 11 fired. When you're up against someone like CNZ who's hitting 75% right now, you're in for a bad time.
Now, I hope nosfa's aware of this, but CNZ using 2 of those totems to heal himself back up, actually even in stack. And dare I even say more so now, because of that armor he's just picked up. nosfa had him extremely weak before. That's not the case now. The preemptive use of the dual wield just to keep him away. But that wasn't even a situation CNZ was worried about. The big push and the direct rocket does nothing to stop nosfa from collecting. As the Mega goes into his possession. Oh my lord, man just can't run onto the jump pad. What the hell was that? Oh, Flea, I'm so confused.
My best guess is that nosfa thought that he would be on the jump pad and already started holding back. And he just didn't quite get onto it and just walked back.
Moonwalking?
Yeah, something like that. And it hurt. It wasn't pretty. Good rocket from CNZ there.
98 damage. May as well have been a perfect.
Impressive comeback from nosfa, though. He's only 2 frags behind at this point. Still has plenty of time to work with. Let's take a look at the damage. CNZ's got slight damage advantage. More items picked up as well. Oh my god, the tracking on that.
Lee, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I swear when you dual wield rails, the accuracy goes down. I swear it does. Maybe it's the fire rate messing people up, but who knows? CNZ just matched it. Happy to do so. And flawless LG. His LG, this whole series has been phenomenal. Let's think back into Blood Covenant. Hitting unreal levels of LG against the Slash. One of the hardest champions to hit, even without an LG on its own. As now CNZ pushing in. nosfa, the rocket jump, I can only imagine that was. Everyone heard it, especially CNZ. The problem with that is that he's definitely going to know that nosfa is extremely weak. Because BJ just advertised it.
One of the only players I feel like has been somewhat consistent with the dual wield rail was Toxic. He somehow made it work, but other than him, it's so difficult because after years of playing Quake, you're so in line and in tune with that rhythm of the railgun, and I think it really just throws people off tremendously when you dual wield and speed that up. For a moment there, it was a 1 frag game. Looked like nosfa was going to be able to bring it back. But then that one misplay at the bounce pad, giving up a frag that he shouldn't, where all CNZ had to work with was that machine gun, that set him back so far.
And frustrating situations, they tend to daisy chain into disaster. nosfa getting knocked forward, actually, put even more point blank with the dual wield shotties. Like to see it. But when things go wrong, I mean, frustration can set in. I'm not saying that it is for nosfa, but there's a potential that one thing can lead to another. And if you're missing your shots and then you get frustrated over that, you'll miss even more shots. The rail just doesn't seem to connect, and there's no getting around the fact that rail has not been a particularly strong weapon here for nosfa. 29%. He's fired 27 shots. And CNZ has not had such problems. 17-9. This was close a couple of minutes ago. And I feel like surely this has got to be that 3-0 secured for CNZ. No doubt Dragonborn going to be very happy with the result today. And of course, both players are taking part. We're going to have Dramas versus Razy later today as well. See if maybe they can take it home.
CNZ's aim has been some of the best I've seen in a while. He has been so consistent, making such good use of every weapon in his arsenal. Just for example, the Tribolt. He's been extremely effective with his Tribolt this map as well. It's not just his rockets, which are great, his rail, which is on point, his LG, which sticks to the opponent. No, he's making the most out of every single bit of his kit, and it is showing in the scoreline as well. CNZ pining for that big 2-0, the 20 frags. nosfa will already call GG. And that will be our second 3-0 of the day catch-up. We saw Avek do it to Zeneku earlier, and now CNZ repeats the feat against nosfa.
I mean, perhaps a taste of things to come. It's always nice to see nosfa play again, but again, today there was just, I think maybe just a bit of an opponent mismatch. The way the two of them play is so drastically different. That kind of inside look, no, you'll get it, you'll get it, you'll get it. Yeah, there we go. First try, and there you go, just a bonus. Just a bonus. But like I was saying, the two of them play so differently to each other. The thing about CNZ's style is that when he needs to match for aim, he tends to be rather reliable, and today was a pretty firm description of that. His accuracy, especially on map 1, when you're going up against these tiny, fast-moving targets, he made it look like just a non-existent problem. And hitting those light champions, these pros make it look easy, but anyone that's ever played Quake Champions knows that hitting them is not even close. So in these kind of situations where you're hitting LG of that caliber, nosfa not particularly respecting it at the start, and I think the respect was forced upon him later on, and you know, the closest exchange we had was that deep embrace, really. There's just CNZ matched the ferocity, but then added his own flair of it on top, and I don't know, if he plays like that throughout the course of this series, this season, I think he's going to be a player to watch.
CNZ definitely enforced some respect during this series. nosfa wasn't quite giving him enough of it, and CNZ kind of humbled him at points during this series. Now nosfa, I really do hope we get to see more of him, right? He lost to Sparty last week, now he lost to CNZ. This is a player, Ketchup, who at one point was really considered to be a sizable contender for top 3 in the Americas, right? Someone who went into LAN looking like a big hotshot, delivering exquisite results. I still remember the kickoff at QuakeCon 2019, that was when the Quake Pro League officially started, and nosfa was looking like such an incredible threat. But ever since, it feels like he's kind of not been able to live up to the hype, especially over the past few stages, just not delivering what we know that he is capable of. So I really hope, new season, new start, we've got a lot of weeks left ahead of us, that he can make the most out of it.
Hey, look, I'm a glass half full kind of guy, and I think that we've only just scratched the surface of Season 3. There is plenty of time for things to improve. And it's as simple as that. You know, how many players, we've seen players have rough starts in the beginning and then instantly they start to climb back up those ranks. And there's many reasons that can cause players to just have an off day or an off few months or whatever the case may be. The important thing is progression. And progression is what Quake Pro League is all about. Our next matchup is going to be Razy versus Dramis. the Dragonborn continues, funnily enough, and no doubt the folks at home keeping a keen eye on this one. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Quake Pro League continues. See you in a bit.